Our next guest speaker on Sunday will be Angela, who's known to most of us as initiator and coordinator of babazoom, and through her many Baba-related activities over the last so many years. Hereunder is her bio. Angela has been engaged in creating and organizing Baba meetings soon after coming to Baba in 1995. She became involved with the Northeast Gathering in 1997 and served as its bookwalla annually for 22 years, from 1998 to 2020. She also served as a president of Mayor Baba House from 2001 to 2004, during which time she filmed precious archival videos of visiting speakers, now all made available on YouTube. From 2005 to 2014, Angela served on the Avatar Mayor Baba Heartland Center Board, making the pilgrimage to the accident site annually for board work retreats. While working for them, one of Angela's biggest achievements was handling the logistics for the 200 attendee 212 Sahavas, located far away from any major city or community of Baba lovers. People converged from all directions for a 4-day Sahavas, all mingling freely in love. After moving from New York to Myrtle Beach, Angela served on the board of the Avatar Mayor Baba Circle of Friends from 2018 to 2020, where her interest was in creating meetings to supplement the events already organized by the Mayhair Spiritual Center, located literally across the street. When the pandemic hit, she took Baba meetings into Zoom. The workload became so great, she stepped down from the circle of friends to dedicate herself entirely to babazoom, now an independent organization more officially called Mayor Baba Family Worldwide. As its coordinator, she inspires creative new kinds of meetings and cajoles people to make them a reality. She also coordinated service projects, small and large. The most significant 2021 project was to raise $43,500 for COVID relief work in India, funneling the funds to known Baba family participants who were already spontaneously initiating direct help to their neighbors. Funds directly benefited real people with no middleman or bureaucracy. The same pattern has emerged for the 2024 project to fundraise for Asheville area recovery post-Helena, where $72,000 plus an unknown value in donated goods and musical instruments has been raised and used to support Baba lovers and the work of Baba lovers doing relief work on the ground. Angela is the tech emergency line for babazoom, handling issues as they arise during live meetings and helping people get online. She maintains the calendar and website to up-to-date accuracy, promotes events via email, Facebook, and WhatsApp. She moderates and encourages inspiring posts on our Facebook page for all to savor. With some help, she handles the video work, downloading from the Zoom cloud, uploading to YouTube, and editing them. All in all, since April 2020, this work has been and still is a second full-time job. Is there more?
Yeah, can you roll it up, please? Thank you.
I am sure I can speak on behalf of all of us on Zoom when I say that Angela is a Baba dynamo with her tireless and selfless efforts in service to our beloved Baba and his love and service. Jeff, and go here.
Thank you, Marta. So Angela, welcome again. We're so happy to have you. And I'm going to keep my remarks brief because I have a terrible congestion. I can barely speak without going into a coughing fit. But to say, when I received your bio, I was simply blown away. Oh my goodness, where do you get the energy and the time to do all that you do in Baba's service, aside from juggling your own career? And then you're a musician too on top of that. Oh my goodness, I'm just overwhelmed to see what you do for Baba in service of him. So anyway, so we'll begin with your story, however you'd like to do it. And in between, if you like questions, we can do that, or whenever you're ready, you let us know and we'll take questions from the group. Okay, so welcome and over to you.
Thank you so much, Jay Baba.
Jai Baba.
Who wrote that bio? It goes on and on. Gosh. Well, I realized that I needed to edit in a little bit more where I still am the bookwalla for the Northeast Gathering, and that in fact I was a musical guest last September. So yeah, interesting timing. We went to the Northeast Gathering. I'm all like high from it, and boom, the Asheville Sahavas happened. I didn't even have time to process what just happened, and I had to get busy with Asheville. So I'll tell you more about that, but I thought I'd start with a song because it just kind of helps to center me to play a little music. All right. Maybe I'll sing two songs. Not just roses on a string, but the fear and the hate and the anger I bring. Let me lay them down at your feet. Not just the pretty words I sing, but the pride and the envy and the thoughts unclean. Let me lay them down at your feet. Every burden too heavy to bear, let me bring to you and leave them there. Every stain within my heart, everything that keeps us apart, everything that keeps us apart. Not just roses on a string, but the ways of the world to which I cling. Let me lay them down at your feet. Not just the smiles and words of praise, but the sin and the sorrow and my willful ways. Let me lay them down at your feet. Every burden that I carry around, let me bring to you and lay them down. Whatever sins I hold on to, that keeps me, Baba, from you. That keeps me, Baba, from you. Not just roses on a my soul and my body and my everything. Let me lay them down at your feet. Let me lay them down at your feet. Let me lay them down at your feet. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.
So I was thinking to sing this song, and this new little spin of it came through. So you're the first to hear me do it that way. Welcome to live music, right? So yeah, maybe I'll put this down for a minute. I can always play it later. So I've told my Baba story before. I'll summarize it. So in the forward direction, you know, living my life in the direction that life is lived in, it was very straightforward. I feel like, you know, so I was introduced to Tai Chi from my parents, and when I got to Yale, I saw some folks doing Tai Chi, and I just sort of hung around, and they taught me Tai Chi, and then they had this teacher come every 3 weeks or so. And for a good part of my freshman year, I would just sort of go and I'd check it out. I'd make it to as many as I could. It'd be a Friday night. So, you know, Friday nights when you're in college, you got stuff to do. So they'd have this visiting teacher come, and they'd usually have a potluck, and usually I was too busy. And this one time, he invited me. This teacher was George Chen. Some of you know him. And we got to talking in the car. I said I was available. We got to talking, and it was just lots of information. And being young, I guess it was just extra special because, you know, all those questions that you almost never knew you had kind of got answered. And there would be times that it was sort of more like a self-help kind of source, but then there'd be a lot of times where George would put down a Baba book, you know, and start answering questions that way about, you know, meaning of life, why are we here? I didn't even know I had questions about these things, you know, when I was growing up. I didn't grow up in an environment that was particularly questioning those things, you know. It was kind of I call my dad anti-religious, not just a-religious, anti. So that's the shorthand story. I started being more and more exposed to Baba through these little snippets, and then I started being interested in, oh, hey, there's this, you know, group that meets, and Bao would come into town. I'd be like, oh gosh, you know, Bao's coming, and I'd almost drag George to go back to these meetings. You know, he had attended regularly when he was young, and I could tell you more about his story at some point, but yeah, he'd kind of gone off and done his own thing, and here I am, like, you know, new to Baba and enthusiastic, and I'm dragging him to Baba meetings. So then I got really interested, you know. Baoji would be just so interesting, and then Darwin Shaw, you know. So these are some of the early folks that really turned the key for me. And it was the imagery I have is like, you know, just so gradual, so natural, so easy, like walking into a lake, you know. It just sort of like, it's gentle, no big waves, no buffeting, no miracles, no, you know, fancy lights and song and dance. It was just like walking in to a lake that just slowly rises. Next thing you know, I'm in way over my head. But that was the quality of coming to Baba. And then when I look back is when things get more interesting, because I just love how Baba has a kind of, he has a kind of punchline. His stories are always over the course of time, right? The punchline develops. You know how one of the early stories, right, that I first heard that attracted me very much to Baba was the story of the accident and the story of the flower exactly 20 years before the accident. And then Elizabeth finding that flower in the Bible, pressed into the Bible, something like exactly 20 years later, if I remember right. And I love that scale of time, and I love that the punchline takes time like that, takes a lifetime. On his scale of time, what's a lifetime? That's just one day for, that's just one, we tell these jokes and we're in a hurry to get to the punchline, but his punchline is a lifetime long. So when I look back in the retrospective, so some of the little crumbs he left me were things like, so George had a house in Bronxville, very near the Bronx River Parkway. Well, guess what? Baba was going up and down the Bronx River Parkway, especially in 52, to go into the city to Ivy Deuce's apartment and then back out to Scarsdale. He had the broken leg from the 52 accident, and this is after that. So he was going up and down the Bronx River Parkway. So eventually we got to know where that house was and we could visit, and Cliff and I have been out to the house several times when we were living in Yonkers. So that's one clue. And then another that I find even more funny is that, so there I am on one end of it, right? I'm closer to Scarsdale. The other end of it turns out, so I was in acupuncture school, so I'm going along with my life, right? And I end up getting into acupuncture school. And while I'm in school, I'm thinking to myself, gee, I really need like some sort of a part-time job, help pay for the train fare and not have to rely on George for everything, because going to school full time, I'm already relying on him for housing and all sorts of other expenses. So anyway, I'm looking, and it isn't a long time I spend looking, but I don't know, internally I'm just like, oh my gosh, like how am I ever gonna find a job that's flexible enough and just easy, I can work my own hours and still go to school, and so I'm looking in the paper and ta-da, within a week, I find this job that says Guy Gal Friday and gives this address and meet with, I forget his name, Sam, I think it was, some really nice name. And so I call him up, make the appointment, go to his place. I get hired, right? Perfectly flexible job, so sweet, so easy, nice guy, and basic, computer skills kind of job, which actually turns out to be one of the foundation stones for everything I've done ever since. It's hilarious when you really look back, like, yeah, I started my graphics design on a computer in his atelier. I call it an atelier because it was up on the top floor. So, okay, so the punchline. So it turns out that I'm going up and down this elevator, this tiny little elevator going up to the top floor of this building that's just near Columbus Avenue. It's near the park, Central Park, and it's 33 West 67th, right? So it's only when I pick up Darwin's book, As Only God Can Love, and he gives exact addresses. He doesn't do any of that sort of cloaking that a lot of people do where they're like, we'll refer to, such and such place. He names locations, he gives exact addresses, and he talks very specifically about where things happen. Ha! Well, Ivy Deuce's apartment was in 33 West 67th, that building. I knew that building. I was going there every single day for a year, and then I started being more and more part-time as I got busier. I was in her building a lot before I even knew. Baba has his joke. I have, when Bao used to talk about how Baba talked about laying a trap for a bird, right? You'd put out breadcrumbs and then whoosh, the net would go down. That's exactly what it was like, all these little breadcrumbs. And so many people met Baba for the first time in 52 in that apartment. And I was in, so my boss had this space up on the top floor, but he lived on the first floor, and each apartment was 2 floors. So he was on the first floor, and there was a second floor that had a clear story, like a balcony that looked down onto the living room below. And Ivy Deuce was the 3rd floor and 4th floor. So I got to be in his apartment because one of the projects was a family reunion kind of thing, a family tree. And he was getting photos, and I was like, one of the jobs I had to do was use the software to get the photos in to match the family tree. So like you see, like from the very beginning, the graphic design, the computer work. So I learned a lot using certain programs, publishing programs in his office, just because that was part of the job. So because of that, he had a family reunion, and he gave out these books, and I was invited because I had so much to do with that family tree. So I got to see an apartment, but it's only, whatever it was, 10, 15 years later that I read that was the address. If I had known sooner, I might have, taken notes and taken lots of pictures. Might have been a little rude. But yeah, anyway. So that's my Baba story in a nutshell. Very soon after that, I got involved with organizing. So yeah, very soon after coming to Baba, I have some sort of karma. Maybe I was an event planner at some point in past lives. And thankfully, I'm not doing that kind of work, but only doing it for Baba. But yeah, putting together events, promoting them, and finding people to help me seems pretty straightforward to me. Like, it's not difficult. But what has happened over time is that my organizational capacity, so to speak, has become so much more, I think of it as democratized, where it's like, if any of you all have a meeting idea, boom, yeah, let's do it. If we need to fundraise, it's like a totally democratic fundraising. It's not like I call up a couple millionaires and we make this happen. It's like everybody chips in their $5, $10, $15, $20 or their $4,000, whatever you got, you know what I mean? So it's much more of a community effort. Anyway, yeah. So do folks have questions? Because I could go off into 100 different tangents. I have so many things that happen in a day that it's like.
Angela, I have a question. What vitamins do you take? What vitamins do you take?
Oh, yeah, right. I am an acupuncturist.
Yeah, but you're not needling yourself, I'm sure.
I am.
Oh, that's a secret, huh?
Oh, yeah. If you go to an acupuncturist who's not needling themselves, gosh, I would run the other way. Yeah, I can do my own limbs and
Oh no, I was kidding.
yeah, and yeah, I definitely keep up with my own physical health, and I do sleep. Yes, I do sleep. I promise I do. I definitely have a daily relationship with Baba that is, well, probably more like moment to moment, but it's not as consciously moment to moment, but I'm definitely very aware. When he's got something percolating in me, it's like first thing in the morning, and it's like, I can't sleep. I just have to do this thing because he's gonna just bother me. And so that's what that's like. When I moved down to Myrtle Beach from New York, a big part of why we were moving was, of course, to be in Myrtle Beach and among the community. And that was both Cliff and I's aspiration, was to be close to community. But I really, really, really wanted to work it out with Baba, that this whole energy I have to like try to create events and meetings and this sort of thing, get Baba lovers together. I kind of liken myself to like a retriever, that or a shepherd dog, collie, that kind of wants to like get everyone into the room, All Baba lovers, go into the middle of the room. Go on, go on. I don't mind what you do. Just go into the middle of the room. Oh, and by the way, do you have food? I'm not good with the like, do you have food? Do you have water? I'm not that kind of a host, but I am that kind of a host that's like, come, let's all have fun. What you do with that fun? Yeah, I'm open-minded. Let's do something. And even if I'm not able to participate myself, I just like everyone to be in the room. So I had a very conscious pact with Baba, an agreement that like one of the things that I wanted to do when I moved to Myrtle was have more time to do that sort of thing. Now, obviously, in Myrtle Beach, it's really easy to get a bunch of Baba lovers together. Heck, you can do that at Walmart. You know what I mean? You can get that quality at the gas station because you might run into a Baba lover there. I was at Walmart today. It wasn't a Baba lover. Anyway, I was walking down. It's so funny. I was walking down this aisle to cross over to the other side, and I'm like, I don't normally get strong intuitions, that like are this loud, but I was like, oh gosh, I'm walking down the sugar aisle. I really, really hope nobody sees me. And guess what? I run into a neighbor. She's a Baba liker, and she's like, oh, hi, Angela. I'm like, oh God, I just said, I don't want to be seen in this aisle. Anyway, so yeah, it must be late night. I'm really random today, but maybe that's part of the fun. We're definitely going to get that side of me today. So one of the things that I was saying to Baba was that I definitely wanted to make more time and have more time for community building efforts, that sort of thing. Well, he has taken that up to the highest notch possible. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, yeah, cool. I like that idea. He made it that I can have a practice that's, since COVID, only 4 afternoons a week, which gives me a lot of time to do all these other things. In between patients while I'm at work, that's when I do my crafting kind of work, and I can actually show a little video tour I made. It's pretty informal, but I can show that of all the Baba crafting that I've been doing. I just expanded into some new areas, some new media, so I'm happy to share that with y'all. And yeah, other than that, I'm on the phone, on the computer, I'm promoting and letting people know what's going on and working it and getting people connected and all those things. It's good to see Jeff, by the way. I got to give him a hug at the center.
I was just going to say,
Jeff is back!
Yay!
In
Ray,
full color.
I thought of all of you at the tomb. You can't think of people inside the tomb. You'd have to do it one at a time. But I sat outside there for hours, thinking of each one of you and visualizing you. So, hey,
What a
but I
blessing.
wanted to ask you. You've had this, this inclusive, organizing sort of vision. Is there? I mean, did you have this from childhood? I mean, that kind of spirit of feeling? Because, I was just wondering if you had any background or kind of a certain thing inside of you that has
Yeah,
been driving you.
as you ask, one of the things that I felt like growing up was that I was always on the outside. And, that's good and bad. I wrote a whole book about it. It's good and bad to be kind of the outsider. I mean, I grew up in a situation where a lot of people were kind of outsiders because I grew up attending an international school. My parents are Chinese, but my dad had a UN job. And so my dad, for reasons I go into in my memoir, he took a job in Nairobi, Kenya because he'd get a permanent contract and didn't have to move. And so I went to an international school in Kenya. And then people say, but you don't sound like you're from Kenya. Well, yeah, I went to an American school. It's an international school. All my teachers were American. Anyway, I always felt like I never fit in. Like, people have wonderful pigeonholes to stick people in, and I don't fit into that one or that one or that one or that one or that one. And I've just always not fit into pigeonholes. I've never been like, people are like, icebreaker, like, hey, where you from? Yeah, that's a really simple question for a lot of people, but I just had been asked that so many times that it's like it raises my hackles just to hear it. Like, I am from everywhere. I'm from Kenya, if you call it, where I grew up, but I was born in New York. But my parents are Chinese, and every 2 years we'd go to China. So like, how do you answer that question? And then I say I'm from Kenya. Then they're like, what was that like? It's like, oh my gosh. So I always had this feeling growing up that I didn't have a pigeonhole. I didn't feel like I was included. I always felt like somehow I was finding out things later. And one of the things that I really want for other people is not to feel that way. So that's why it'd be really nice if, everyone could tune in to certain resources that were there readily available. Like, that's why I create a very, very, very open environment for babazoom, right? I want you all to be included. You're as front row as anybody else. In fact, one of the things that's fun about Zoom, right? There's no second row. You're all front row. You're all looking at my face equally from any seat in this house. So that kind of inclusiveness, and then the community news page, I hated that feeling of like, I'm like the 50th person to find out that so-and-so is, needing some help. I wanted to be there with the first, and I want you all to be there as the first. So, community pages, that was really important to me. People ask me sometimes like, hey, what do you know about so-and-so? It's like, I posted it. Whatever I know is already there. You don't have to beg for more information. Whatever I know, I'm happy to share, unless they, of course, are private and I might have to tell a person that. But yeah, that feeling of like, yeah, if there are events going on, I'm going to tell you right away. I'm going to tell you if I'm organizing something. Yeah, you're the first to know if you read my emails. So I definitely want that for people, you know what I mean?
We actually have questions.
We do have questions. Oh, right.
In the first row here.
Yeah, in the first row. In the front row.
Front row is Rich Sander.
Rich Sander.
Uh-oh, you're muted.
We're going to have to learn that in other languages.
It's about you and partially about Jeff and the center being around that whole community. But it comes up because ever since I started getting on Zoom and meeting different people's profiles and ages, obviously for me, I'm like going to pass on, and so my level of interactivity.
Turns out everyone is, but okay.
Yeah, but there's always that question that I know Jeff's been asked this probably many times, me too. But what about young Baba lovers? What about people in America? I don't know what's going on in India. But in America, how do you think?
The age question comes up a lot. Here's what I have to say about that. When I first started Zoom, the babazoom concept, I thought that, hey, it's techie, younger people will be interested. And the reality is, no, not even that. So being on the younger end of things, almost all my, not all, but, like the majority of my Baba friends that I interact with on a daily basis would tend to be older than me. I obviously am familiar with and might even be more than friendly with some of the younger folks, but yeah, for the most part.
And we loved you going out with us younger folks last month.
Oh, yeah. I get included in younger folks because Peter thinks of me as young. That's so nice. Despite my natural highlights. Natural highlights? Yeah, okay. Just making sure you heard that. Yeah, so I am 53. I'll just outright say it in case you're wondering. Which does put me in an interesting age bracket because there's very few of us in this age range. There's people younger and there's a lot of people older. I don't personally have a problem with that. Sometimes the younger generation feels that there's a generation gap. I don't know what to say about that. I will say that individuals in that generation seem to want to be doing things in a very different way. And it's not even, oh, take over the organizations and do it in a different way. It's literally do it in a different way. Right? So one of the things I'm thinking is, okay, twofold. So one of the things I'm thinking is well, organizations such as babazoom. I can't speak for other organizations. I don't run them. Turns out I don't do everything. So, for example, for babazoom, we are here for whoever is interested in engaging. And the answer is absolutely yes if you want to get involved. And we take enthusiasm and we don't look at age. You know what I mean? So it's enthusiasm that really counts. Enthusiasm, passion, commitment, motivation, all those things that, make for a community being vibrant and connected and interested in meeting. And then secondfold, I look at the situation in terms of that, it seems to me that it isn't about age, but it is definitely a thing where sometimes the most enthusiastic folks are the newest to Baba, right? So maybe what we need to be focusing on more is encouraging more new to Baba folks, spreading the word and not being shy. When I wrote my memoir, my autobiography, it's called Standing Out. It's available on Amazon. Yeah, I have to put a plug in, right? When I wrote that, it wasn't about my Baba story, but at the same time, I just decided to treat it as a most natural thing that, Baba's involved in my story. You'll see it mentioned, not very often because that's not what the focus of the book is. But when it comes up, I don't avoid it. I don't get scared. I don't freak out and explain with lots of parentheses. You know what I mean? No apologies, no special, drop his name and move on, I feel like on some level, there's been a fear, especially among the American Baba lovers I encounter. I don't feel it so much with Indians, for example, and maybe, I don't know too much about how other cultures feel because I don't live in their countries, but what it feels like here is that there's a sort of we've made it across the divide, we're Baba lovers, and we just are a little shy about talking to the regular public about Baba, about the wonderfulness of who he is. And maybe that's something that we could discuss or find inroads into. It's new though, when Adele was young and in the city, New York City, I'm from New York, the city is New York City. She would post flyers, she would just staple them to telephone posts. I mean, it's kind of like when you're new to Baba, you have a lot of new to Baba energy and you want to share it with other people. Somehow we've lost that enthusiasm that go out and tell the world about this really wonderful thing that happened to me. And on some level on babazoom we're trying. I'm not actively seeking or trying to convert anybody, but all of our videos are wide open to the public, and for those who are interested, wow, it's a treasure trove. There's so much there. Anyway, that's how I would answer that.
and just in this generational thing, I remember in the early days, back in the late 60s and early 70s, all the older Baba people, which probably our age, and most of the people on the screen here, it's almost like they had a memo to connect with the younger people. They were always available. You know what I mean? They were not shy. They didn't kind of stay off to the side with their generation. They actually made a point. I mean, I could go and get Dell there when I was in New York and meet her at college, and I could go with any of these people and find out anything I wanted to that they knew about Baba. I mean, they were very proactive in responding to us. And of course, the Mandali also they got to know all of us, and we were all very young. And that, I think, a lot of, if we can do that, continue to do that, and really be there for the younger people. I mean, that's kind of what we do at the center. I mean, not just young people, but all the younger people we try to connect with in any way, shape, or form. And they are not, they truly appreciate that. But it's getting over the shyness about connecting with a generation that's got quite a different set of values and experiences. But I don't find that it's has to be a distance there at all, because we all share the same emotions and feelings and everything, and in that way we can connect deeply with the younger people. So I'm
Yeah, the
yeah,
connecting and the relating as Bible lovers, I don't think is the issue, but just sort of like here's a thing that we created, now you run it, is not really
right.
the energy that I'm feeling from them. Like they're not like, oh yeah, I've been dying to take over your meetings. I don't really
Yeah,
feel that.
but just the connecting something,
Oh, connecting,
connecting
sure.
with them, I think something will evolve out of that. I mean, you
But
got the
as
young
far as I'm
adult.
concerned, connecting means connecting to every age, not like, oh, you're a young person, I'll go connect with you.
Yeah,
Like I don't
yeah,
see age, you know what I mean?
yeah. No,
As
but I
far as I'm
mean,
concerned, our current life physical age has nothing to do with our actual age, right? I don't know how many
yeah,
millions of lives ahead of me you are. You might be you
yeah.
might be
No,
older or
but
younger and I wouldn't know.
yeah, but no, I mean though, is to include.
Yeah.
I mean, include everybody, but also including the younger people, where we might feel a bit shy about connecting with them, where it's easier for us to connect with our own peer group, people our own age, but to go way
Well,
down to the younger age, that
they're all
I
my
don't see
age, yeah.
happening. I don't see that happening anywhere like it did back in the late 60s and early 70s.
Well, let me just put it
Oh,
out to everybody. I'm very available for connecting and I don't see age at all.
yeah,
Just put it out there.
yeah.
The invite is there. Door's always open.
Let's go over to
L-
India and go to Mara.
Meher, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thanks to Angela, I can say Baba Zoom is just going rapidly beautiful.
Jai
Beautiful.
Baba.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, but I never feel like joining Aarti on the Indian this thing background. I always say, wow, Baba Zoom is the first thing. And every time I join Baba Zoom, first thing Yasmin says, why joining Baba Zoom? Can't you join the Indian also? I said, no, no, no. Baba Zoom is much better, much better. So she said, go on Baba Zoom, enjoy Baba Zoom. Your whole life is to that only now. So I really am so happy with Angela. Really. Just go on doing what you're doing, Angela.
Wonderful.
Thank
It's uh it's a funny thing because I literally think of Baba Zoom as every single person on the planet who's interested in participating. Like we have this we have this very arbitrary line that says Bible lover, not Bible lover, but actually if we're all God in human form and everybody else is God in human form, how do you differentiate between one who's a Bible lover and one who's not, right? So technically, the way that I would describe that line is, well, if they call themselves a bobbler, they're a bobble lover. If they don't call themselves that, that doesn't mean they're not a bobble lover. They may or may not know that they're a bobble lover. Who is not a lover of God? Like, that'd be like saying that you don't love who you are. Obviously, some people are more conscious of trying and making an effort and trying to know more about God and find that connection to that very deep essence that is our godhood. But we're all God in human form. So for someone to somehow not be a lover of God would mean that they don't love themselves. It's actually not even possible, right? If God isn't outside of us. He's everything that we are, closer than our very breath. We can't even define who he is and who he isn't. And he's not even a he, right? So I would say that that one of the things that's so interesting is that this paradigm that babazoom is, it actually challenges a lot of different kind of known constructs, right? So the known construct is an organization. And I get that sometimes where it's like, well, babazoom and babazoomers. And it's like, well, babazoom is a community. I happen to coordinate some efforts, but every effort is coordinating, all different efforts are coordinated by are different kinds of people who are coordinating different kinds of things and doing different kinds of things. And like to have like a category of person called babazoomer is actually really odd in my mind, because it's like, well, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing to fundraise for Asheville, right, isn't just about the people who show up on babazoom, the meetings. It's also all those people who got my email and all those people who forward emails to their friends and other Baba lovers and non-Baba lovers, you know what I mean? So like, I don't even know how to draw the line between those who are babazoomers and those who are not, because by definition, there is no line. But one of the things that I love is that we can be so inclusive on this platform and everything that we do, that we don't need an inclusion statement. Like if I named all the things who are welcome, there's way more things, more categories. If I named all the categories that are welcome, we'd run out of room. Like, it's just like every single word you can think of. By definition, once you name a category, then you have a not category, right? So we just don't have a category, to the point where not only every single human who's on this planet, and perhaps even those who are not, every species is welcome. We have regulars who are cats and dogs who come and they attend faithfully, They do their J Babas in their doggy way or cat way or bird way. And yeah, we're not limited to humans. We're open to everything. You see what I mean? Rich is showing us our poochie. There are dogs and cats of babazoom who are well named. We know them very well. Their snoring is part of the arti. You know what I mean? Like, so that's another side thing, is that kids are very welcome. You get a group setting live, and it's hard, when you're a mom or a dad and you've got kids who are fussing or kids who are restless. Well, you can do all of it on babazoom. You just put the mute button on and ta-da, you've got a meeting that any age can attend, even if they're fussy and crying and moving about. You can still attend a babazoom meeting.
Let's go down to Texas to Ralph.
And now for something completely different.
How did you intuit that? There you go. Keith, that's a ball you can roll. We can roll. How did you intuit that my question regarded something different?
Oh,
it's really not.
It's just who you are, Ralph.
Going back.
I know my regulars.
It's just going back about 45 minutes. So you got me, I don't know what it is. Been exposed to a lot of discussion and talking about family trees and stuff. So maybe that's why I can't get it out of my mind. And then in the interim, you divulged that you have an autobiography. And I thought, now, am I lazy? Is this a viable question? So you tell me, here it is. Not a question, but your dad, I'm not clear for whom was he the ambassador from what? For whom?
Okay, so my dad worked for the United Nations Environment Program. He wasn't an ambassador. He worked for the UN directly. So there's something called the Secretariat, which is the staff of the UN. Mm-hmm. And he had a position at first. He started at the very beginning. Here is a guy who had a PhD in nuclear physics, rocket science. And I'll shorthand it, but he was, okay, so I have to go back a little bit. So his dad, I'm fuzzy on the details. One of the things that is interesting about my parents is that they really told me very little. And when you look back on your own childhood, you probably realize that a lot of times we learn more about our parents through aunts and uncles and cousins and what have you, right? So we tend not to have as much that comes directly from our parents. Our parents are our parents. Well, in a Chinese household, parents are really parents, right? They're not going to sit down and make friends with their kids, right? That's not who they are. So I got dragged at an early age to Nairobi, Kenya, very far away from family. And if I ever met family, it was like once when I was yay high, that sort of thing. So when my dad would sit me down and tell me something about his story, it was like once in my lifetime and once only. And I had to like massively memorize it and detective my way into finding out more. So I'm always fuzzy on the exact details of my dad's life story, but it's an interesting one.
Every household's different, and like you may know what your parents are up to, or you may not, or at different levels of degrees of amount,
Everyone's definitely different,
information-wise.
and every set of parents is different with their kids, no doubt.
But do you have siblings? Are they brothers and sisters?
So I had an older brother who died young. When I was born, my Chinese name means healthy, and when I tell that to people, Chinese folks, I tell them what my Chinese name is, and they're like, oh, that's a boy's name. You don't name girls like healthy, strong, you name them Flower in spring. So so I have a boy's name, but the name came about because my brother was already that sick. He had asthma. He had terrible attacks. And from what I understand, and this is after my dad passed away, I found this report about my brother's asthma, and it was some facility in like Boulder, Colorado or something like that, and it was like a whole report on what they recommend and what they found. So the report said find somewhere high in elevation with low pollution. And as far as my dad was concerned, working for the UN already, I think his choices were Geneva or Nairobi. Nairobi is a mile high, but on the equator. Really incredible weather. It's almost 70 degrees all year round. Like, there's a rainy season that gets a touch chillier, and then a warm season doesn't get much hotter. So yeah, it's pretty nice weather. Anyway, I think that he chose Nairobi because he got a permanent contract there, which meant that he wouldn't have to move the family around a lot, which of course is great for stability. But why bring a very sick child to a third world country? But anyway, that's what they did. And my brother at the age of 10, I believe 10, because I have a year, but I don't have the exact time. Like at this point, I can't even remember what time of year it was, but I believe I was in second grade and he was in fifth grade. So he had some sort of asthmatic attack, and then ended up dying of encephalitis. So I was young, and it took me, when you have a loss that great in life, I mean, I suppose that with therapy or whatever, it might have been an earlier process of grieving, but when you lose someone that young, it takes some time before you realize you have a lot of grieving to process. So anyway, my dad did end up adopting 2 more boys into the family, but the way that things were done in my family was my dad just told us, we're traveling to China, pack. We're leaving in 2 weeks, So as far as adopting my 2 brothers, it was like, we were on a home leave. You know, every 2 years we'd go to China. That was home leave for him. And one year, we're in our very familiar hotel. You know, we'd go there every 2 years, and we're in the dining hall, and next thing I know, my mom's holding a baby, and I'm like, what? This baby's coming home with us? What? Nobody told me. And then the same trip, we picked up another brother, the older of the two, and yeah, it's quite something to have that happen to you when you're 13. But that's how that happened.
You had a fairly close relationship with your brother.
I wouldn't say it was close. There was 10 and 12 years between us.
Oh yeah.
And they're adopted, so I was like a second mom to them because they came into my life at the age of 1 and 3. That's not, that's not that easy.
Your asthmatic brother, was he?
Say again?
Your asthmatic brother.
Oh, yeah. Alex and I were very close. When I was a kid, I don't have any sort of like very specific examples, but I do remember that he and I would like write these kids' books together, like it was like a kid's book, and he would be telling the story and I'd write it down, and then we'd draw the illustrations together. So we definitely had a very close relationship. I have a memory of him and I racing around the house, so like first it'd be he said go, and I'd run around the house and he'd count how many seconds, and then it was his turn and I'd say go and I'd count how many seconds, and by the time he came around he'd be wheezing and coughing and having a really tough time. So yeah, I remember him having to be tied into his bed with string because he would cough and fall out of bed. I don't remember it. I slept like a log, but I was always a good sleeper as a kid. Darned menopause caught up and it's not so easy, but yeah. So I do know that he had a lot of health issues. I was just a kid though. I wasn't responsible, so I can't tell you more about the details.
I'm going to call on myself.
Ah, look at that.
So here's the one question we here in the Ullman Levine household want to know. How did you meet and fall in love with the best tabla player?
So that's a simple answer. So when I was involved with Meher Baba House, which was 3 solid years, one of the things that I came onto the board wanting to do was have guests, have people who met Baba come through New York and have a meeting. And then I offered my house as the second meeting. So there would be a meeting in the city, and then the next day we'd have a brunch, a potluck, and that was out in Westchester, which is a little bit of a suburb, So I first met Cliff just as a member of the community. He'd make it to Meher Baba House meetings, or else he would come out to the house. So I knew of him when I separated and then ended up divorcing George. When I first emerged from that situation with George, it was like he had been holding me in. I felt like a jack in the box, where I just there was a box that I just popped out of. So firstly, George was older than me, but secondly, he was very much a teacher type. So he was my Tai Chi teacher, of course, but he was that kind who he liked to, give information, not so much receive it. It was not like an equal relationship. And so there was this quality of like being held down as the eternal student. I was starting to be a professional acupuncturist, healing people, working on, you know, on important stuff. And he wasn't growing with who I was growing into be. And eventually it felt like a tree that outgrows its pot, you know. It wasn't like necessarily, gee, I don't like you anymore, I'm out of love, you know. It was just like grew out of that pot and I couldn't be put back in, you know. So one of the things that I did was I went wild with exploring all sorts of hobbies, and one of them was, gee, I could learn the tabla. I've always loved the sound, and growing up in Kenya, there's a lot of Indians in East Africa. I actually was exposed to Indian dance and Indian music from the earliest because some of my classmates were, you know, they would take lessons. They would take dance class or whatever, you know. So, yeah, it was all around us, even though it wasn't the main culture. It was definitely very visible. So that's how Cliff and I started spending more time, and kind of grew from there.
You made beautiful music together.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, and now Cliff is writing more. It's definitely interesting.
And singing more, I like that.
Singing more, yeah.
So I have another question.
Okay.
Of course I do, Teresa. How do you have so many, this is not gratuitous compliments. You happen to have a wealth of talent. How do you prioritize things? Whether it be your profession, whether it be Baba items, whether it be your painting, your music, you're making things, always coming up with new ways to do things. How do you do that, and how do you say no?
Right. Well, it does really feel like I have I call it my little Baba meter, you know. I've got a little gut check meter that is like, yes, 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 or no, no, no. If something comes up red, it's actually a no-go, not happening, just not happen. So if something comes up green, it's usually something that it feels very compelling to me. I'll get that for like, yeah, you know, somebody's putting together a meeting idea or whatever, and it's like, yeah, there'll probably be 4 people coming to that. You know, like I have my little Baba meter tell me how many people to expect. Other things are like, wow, you know, people seem to be talking about this. Yeah, there's going to be a big crowd at the Circle Center. You know, I can feel it, you know. So that pact that I made with Baba is definitely that sort of like, you know, he speaks to me in that kind of green light, red light kind of feel. You know, it's not like visual lights. I just mean like in my gut. It's like, yeah, ding, 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 yeah, yeah. So when there's yeses, I just follow that. And sometimes those yeses are crafty, and sometimes they're musical, and sometimes they're, oh yes, this event, definitely. And then the other way that Baba says yes is if I start exploring. I'm like, I'm not clear about where the yes is, but I'm starting to explore and ask around, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, it gets shaped, you know, as I talk to people, like, oh yeah, right. So fundraising, just straight up fundraising, has slowed down for Asheville, but obviously they're going to need a lot of help for a long time. So I was thinking along the lines of how to maybe utilize some of the holiday budgets that people have, right? So I started thinking along the lines of, well, we could have a raffle, and it could be online, and I start looking up online software. Is there online software for raffles? And yes, there is. So then I'm going down that direction, like raffles, what can we sell? What would, like, you know, what could we make even non-Baba lovers might be interested in, you know, like first I'm thinking, oh, you know, a 5-night stay at the center, wouldn't that be a nice prize? But like, well, I don't know if non-Baba lover, you know, like, well, so I'm still looking for a grand prize. But then interestingly, there was a sort of second part of that was coming in from left field that was more like a holiday bazaar kind of thing, like, you know, selling art auctioning art, that sort of thing. So I was thinking, okay, holiday raffle with, a holiday bazaar with a raffle. And I started getting this idea that, wow, what if we could support Asheville businesses so I could use what was created in Asheville as raffle prizes? And I started asking around. They're like, oh my gosh, we're so tapped out with the donations and the giving that we really need to make some income so that we can make ends meet. So then I started thinking, oh, well, maybe instead of raffle, I make some sort of a virtual holiday bazaar. So that's what's happening. You all are hearing it for the first time. I'm going to send out an email actually tomorrow about 2 holiday raffles. One's in person, one's virtual. The virtual will have mostly Asheville businesses. Now, I'm working on that because right now there's not many entries, but it's something. And the Asheville folks will get 100% of their sale price, and then people who are not in Asheville who want to participate in the virtual, they can give a percentage towards the fundraiser. The in-person will be similar, where a portion of all proceeds will go towards the fundraiser, and it's organized by me. The Circle Center might actually, it'll be the location, but the Circle Center might have a stall, but they also will be giving towards the fundraiser. So it's actually a really interesting dynamic to have not only 2 events, but also, a private citizen organizing an event at the Circle that's a fundraiser. It's like it's always interesting layers to everything Bob was making me do. There's always this sort of like pushing of an edge to see where that edge is, and then seeing if I have to adapt that in order to fit the real circumstances. So yeah, it's an almost constant checking in to my gut and saying, yes, maybe, yes, yeah, over there. It's like a Geiger counter, like, yep, that's it. So I feel that way with my art. I feel that way with my music. For me, the music is not about me, right? It's about trying to express that story that the song is telling. So, I mean, all musicians choose their music, right? But I'm really choosing words that speak to me or tell some part of my story. Or if Baba gives me a song, it's really like, it's from the heart. It's from my deepest gut, and when I'm singing, I'm trying to tap into that place. It's not about the technique of me and look at me, I'm so accomplished. I'm not that accomplished, really, But if you're enjoying it, if it moves you, that's meaningful to me. That's the point of what I'm trying to do is bring joy, bring love, bring togetherness, bring peace, bring healing. So with the crafty stuff, I'm trying to make Baba something, it's a bit of a joke, so to speak. It's like a caricature. So there was this guidebook that I heard about that was explaining or describing all the different spiritual centers in India, right? So, this place is known for that, this is what you do, you got to bow down here. So Mehrabad is on there. And someone was telling me, I didn't see it for myself, but someone was telling me that the description basically runs like this, that, there's a lot of guitars around and there's a lot of paintings of Baba. And, the running joke, of course, is that every Baba lover household, right? How can you tell you're a Baba lover when your idea of decor is the same man all over every wall? That's a Gabe joke. So I was thinking, well, if Baba is already on every wall, where can we put Baba next? That was kind of one of the things that I was thinking along. It started, I'll tell you where it started. So I had a trip to India in a tricky time. Let me think. I think it was like 06 or 08, and I can't remember. Anyway, it's a little fuzzy, but it was a time when my acupuncture practice was going through a bit of a tough time because the economy had taken a turn, and And poor as I felt, I just needed to get to India and give it all to him, just stop worrying. Being in New York, the bills are higher than around here. And you New Yorkers know what I'm talking about. And so I just needed to just lay it down. And I remember feeling like I'm in that samadhi line, waiting to take darshan. And I just remember feeling like I could just move here. It'd be so cheap, get a little shack, some tiny thing, put a little sleeping bag down and just live, simple. And I could make flower garlands for a living, and so I'm kind of contemplating that. And that very afternoon, Sam Carawalla was scheduled to speak. And it's not that he didn't tell amazing stories. He always had amazing teaching stories. It's just that this one particularly stuck with me because of what I'd been cogitating. So he tells this story. So there's this king. He was kind of tired of his responsibilities, and this wanderer, this spiritual mendicant, he's a wise man who would come through town every once in a while. So every time he came through town, this king would just have him sit with him and just be like soaking it up, right? This one day, the king says to the mendicant, "Oh, I'm just so exhausted. This responsibility is just exhausting. I can't take it. Why don't we trade places? You be the king and I'll be the wanderer, and I'll just wander around with no responsibilities and just go wherever the wind blows me, and it'll be fun." And this spiritual master says, well, yeah, let's do that. But here's the condition. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. You want to do this? It's great. Great. What's the condition? The spiritual wise man says, the condition is this: you give me the kingdom, but you have to run it for me. And I just felt like, wow. That's kind of what my practice is, I really, really, really had come into it. My logo, my byline was real happiness make others happy. That's the backside of my card. I came into it really wanting to do that. And I was like, wow, this whole thing of giving it all up. Yeah, it's not really entirely mine to give up, right? It's Baba's, right? So here I am. I've given it to him. In that darshan line, right? I'm like, I just give it all. I'll just make flower garlands. And Baba gave it back to me to take care of. It's his, but I have to take care of it. And that quality, that has really served me in so many ways, where it's like, yeah, we do our best. We try everything that we can to fulfill responsibilities, to follow through with Baba's promptings, but in the end, it's his. We're just doing our best to take care of it for him.
Many
Yeah.
thanks. I do want to tell you that babazoom, because you came during COVID, you put the J back in oi.
So that's good. Joy Baba.
Yeah.
Boy,
That's
boy,
go to
vey.
Gabrielle.
Well, God, Angela, I love your analogies, and I'm so glad you're at your loose place in the evening because I never got to know you this well. I feel like
Yeah, right.
the way you share and that idea of the plant outgrowing the pot
Yeah.
and light, green light, these are really great. I mean, you're a great writer, you're a great thinker, and I enjoy you so much. So
Oh, thanks,
so
sweetie.
glad. But I wanted to ask, because I might have fallen asleep for a teeny bit there, I might have missed it, but about
Oh,
the
you
whole
missed it, definitely.
the Asheville thing that you did,
Okay.
which started and have been so. So I first of all I want to thank you. We were all just so wanting to do something, and you gave us a way
Yeah.
to help, and I want to continue to help, and I hope that we'll continue to do more because I've been seeing that things are far from over up there. And I wanted to ask you if during this time you've had working on that particular project, you had any particular experience that just made a big impression on you.
Yeah. So I described it in the interview with Molly, Inga, and Ellie from, is it 2 weeks ago? Anyway, it's not last week, is it? Oh gosh, time runs together. I have no idea. Weekend to weekend, it's like whichever, that one. So it was the same for the India fundraising. The Baba meter was going wild, and I didn't know where the yes was. I just knew it was like ringing off the hook. It was like the Geiger counter was like buzzing, like we have to do something, we have to do something. One of the things that's especially compelling to me is that in Asheville there's so many Baba lovers, right? So that's a town that already is meaningful to someone who lives in Myrtle Beach. There's a long history between these two towns, but the Baba connection is humongous. I mean, Ashevilleans are here in Myrtle Beach right now in huge numbers. I mean, anytime you see someone you don't know who might be new to Baba, it's almost guaranteed they're from Asheville. Like, I hardly even ask where they're from. It's like, yeah, they're from Asheville. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. They're from Asheville. So Asheville and Myrtle Beach are already really close. Baba lovers are already very close. So when this was happening, one of the first things that I was seeing on Facebook was, are they okay, right? And there's somebody who was listing names of people he's checked in with. And so that was one of the first things was to find a way to centralize that information. And that's why I made a community page about it, and then followed up with a Google Doc because it was getting too long and needed to be alphabetized. Once I knew that Baba lovers were okay, then it was like, well, I mean, basically okay, physically okay. Then it was like, okay, so what's next? Because sure, we could raise money for foundations, but might as well just send them right to the charity if that's the case. I don't need to be a middleman to give money to some other organization. When I was put in touch with Inga is when the key was turned, and I think that it was within a week of when the hurricane had hit that I was put in touch with Inga. I'd heard about Chaipani doing work, and that was interesting, and I was definitely pestering them for like, how do we directly send funds to them? And they eventually did create a GoFundMe. But then I found out about Inga, and she was going around to these mountain towns and finding needs and coordinating what exactly they needed. And I thought, wow, a Baba lover who's doing this kind of work. Yes, the answer is yes. And the Geiger counter Baba meter aligned with what to do with money. Interestingly, at the very same time, I was getting the other end. I was getting Daniel Files and Charlie Eaton. They were like, we want to bring something to Asheville. What can we bring? And finally putting the two together. Well, not finally. It was like within a day. I was like, ding, Inga, she has a known list of needs, and these people are ready to go. And that's when I created the GoFundMe, because I finally had something that was direct. I wasn't interested in, giving to a charity and helping the nameless everyone. I wanted to specifically support Baba lovers who are doing real work with real people, people they knew. So that's how that all started. And the amazing thing is just how every piece has just been people's passion, people's interests, and someone to send to. And my job was almost like a lightning rod, like there was all this different lightning strikes that were happening, and I funneled them and gave it a direction. And that's how we started. And we're at the point where we've raised and spent $74,000. And that's the countable money, It's potentially another. It's hard to exactly quantify, because I asked the community for instruments to donate, and of the instruments, that could easily be another $4,000, $5,000 in used musical instruments. Potentially, it may be even more. And then there was someone who, for example, donated a brand new generator. That's $1,000. So there was all this, bedding that was donated, and at the beginning a lot of clothes and gasoline cans and all sorts of equipment. I didn't even quantify it because I was like, if it fits on the truck, just take it. Like I, I had begged the Meher Center to open up the gateway as a drop off, so some of the stuff that left came together so fast and left that I didn't even go and inventory it or tally it. It wasn't necessarily my business to even need to know, just get it there and we'll figure it out later. Ingo has a probably better idea of what all came. So yeah, it's like that, I felt all the lightning strikes, and I was able to be in a position to do something about that. And it's the most electrifying and also energizing experience possible. Yeah. That's how all of this works, though, I call myself a coordinator because that's literally what I do. I put people's enthusiasm in with other people's enthusiasm, or here you need support over there, and just sort of like connect people. It's a lot like the spokes of a wheel. Technically, I may be the only one who knows everything that's going on in my little babazoom universe, whatever that means, whatever that definition of babazoom is. But babazoom isn't just the meetings that happen every day, and it's not just the recordings that are watched by thousands of people, but it's also this other stuff we do as a community, some of which is coordinated by email and Facebook, and then lots of texting and instant transferring of funds, all of that. So yeah, that techie side, that's what I'm especially good at.
Yeah, well, I feel like it.
Sorry.
No, I think I know it's Zoom in general has changed the world, but what's happened here is so unique and
Yeah.
unbelievable. And I would never be this close. Look at this. I'm comfortable just talking to this room of like, I don't even know how many people are here, but I'm at ease. It's changed my whole being in terms of how to be in a group. I'm at ease because of the technology and
Yeah.
and of course the people, and there's so many ways that I think we've all changed, and it's wonderful. It's remarkable. I say
Yeah.
both of them being really positive things, and made so many friends that I've never even met. And I truly feel close to this community, and it's brought me closer to Baba. And I know I'm speaking for most everyone in this room as I say all this stuff. So, but thank you again for helping organize with this thing with Asheville, especially because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it's just so close to home, and
Yeah. And you know what? Being here in Myrtle Beach, it's literally like there go I, but for the grace of God. I mean, what? They got hit with a hurricane? We're here on the beach.
yeah, absolutely, who would think? Yeah.
So
So Angela,
one thing I do want to say, actually, with regard, oh, were you going to cut me off? Is it time?
I was just gonna want to tell you we've got a few more minutes, and I know you wanted to do another song, and if
Oh,
it
yeah.
happens to be "Hold On to Me," I would not argue with that at all.
You wouldn't be offended?
But
Let me just answer a little bit, or speak to
go for it.
something that Gabriela said. So, the interesting thing about being organizer of the Northeast Gathering, one of the things that is very striking is that when people hear that there's going to be a gathering, they want to know who the guest is, who the musical guest is, who's the speaker. And then they come to the gathering and they're always like, oh, we're so overscheduled. All we want is the free time. Oh my God, we didn't have enough free time. You overscheduled us. Well, here's the thing. My experience with Sahavas and drawing people together is that you have to have something that draws them, right? They have to be like, Charles Haynes, I'm signed up. Boom, here's my money. I'm going, right? And then when they get there, they're like, oh my God, we saw all these great friends and all we want is more time with our friends. And like, so the way that I structured babazoom from the very beginning, obviously it's that one meeting link. That's already huge to be able to have one meeting ID for all the 50 meetings a week that we do. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's like 45, 45 meetings a week, whatever it is. Every week is slightly different. Besides the actual meetings, having that time between where the room does not close, where the time is there for you to hang out and actually meet people. You're actually meeting people in a very face-to-face way. Like even in a large crowd and you have 45 people who came to a potluck on a Sunday at the circle, even then you're going to be probably gravitating towards people that you already know and you're friendly with. It's easy. You may not actually go around the room and meet every single person, but here on babazoom, well, you don't know who's going to end up sticking around after arti, and then you get to know them, and then you get to know their whole story, and next thing you know, you're like commiserating with every little bump in their road, and they're commiserating with every bump in your road, and it's got that sort of like feminine energy, right? That receptive, community, healing kind of energy. That's definitely intentional. So that time between, yeah, and speaking to a crowd of people and being comfortable. Well, here we are. We're in our own bedroom. We're in our own home. We're inviting you all over, and we're having chai. Let's drink a cup of tea together. Let's sit and coffee clutch together. It is remarkable, and it's been that quality with the speaking stick quality, the hands raised, the muting, all of that quality of like, we got nothing but time. Let's just be with each other, and no restrictions on what you can talk about. Just Baba lovers coming together to talk about their grocery lists, I find, is going to be a Baba conversation within minutes. You don't have to. So that was something also that I wanted to bring to the world, was this energy that Myrtle Beach has, where you're just like, you're in your own little world, like, oh my God, I don't want to be caught in the cereal aisle. And next thing you know, you find a Baba lover in the aisle, and you got to be like, oh, I did not want to be seen here, but Jay Baba. Happened to me today. Yeah. Oh, you wanted a song. That was the...
Yeah, and then we'll have a moment of silence, and then
we'll carry on with the informal part. I know how these recordings go. After that moment of silence, I can see all this talking after that. All right. Sorry, I had to get my... So, I am teaching myself piano based on an app. So the app is teaching me piano. It's a very cool app. It's called Simply Piano. And I actually am learning this song on the piano, so we'll see. Maybe at some point. Not today. I'll play it for you that way. Hold on to me. I will always be here. Hold on to me. I will always help you. Hold on to me. Hold on to me. I am in your silence, closer than your breath. I am the deepest love you've ever felt. Hold on to me. I will always hold you. Hold on to me. I will always love you. Hold on to me. Hold on to me. The space between your words, infinite patience. I am the love that is your core. Hold on to me. I will always see you. Hold on to me. I will always hear you. Hold on to me.
moment of silence.
Angela, before we sign off, I just wanted to thank you once again for joining us. I mean, with your multifaceted, talented personality and your boundless energy, you are such an asset to the entire Baba community and to all of us. So thank you once again. Okay.
Jai Baba.
If everybody can unmute and join me in 3. Avatar.
Meher Baba
Meher
ki
Baba
jai.
ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Jai Baba.
Hey,
Thank
Bob.
you. Jai Baba. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Diane.
Angela.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for
Where did
hosting.
you learn
Thank
to
you,
say-
everyone.
Where
Thanks,
did you learn
Angela.
to say Avatar Mayor Baba like you do?
I'm heavily influenced by
Are
Jamie
those
Newell,
root- Are
who
those roots back in your blood family or in your acquired experiences?
which words?
Avatar, the way you say, I'm not. gonna
I didn't
try.
grow up with Baba. I came to Baba in my early 20s.
No, but still,
We all have had so many lives with Baba. Don't even start with this life, last life. No. We all have had hundreds, if not thousands, of lives with Baba. And it's interesting. There was actually someone who was on the stage one day. I think it was Marwan Irani. He was like, talking about, not Irani, Marwan. Anyway, mystery. That's who I was thinking. I think it was him. Anyway, he says on the stage, he gets up there and he's talking about various things. One of the things that stuck was like, it made me think, he said, between Baba and the next avatar is going to be innumerable lives. And I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, 700 to 1400 years. That's a number of lifetimes. That's like, that's not an innumerable at all. So when you think like on the scale of the avatar, what's a few hundred years? That's like, what's even a lifetime? Like, that's a blip, that's like it's like what we think of as a second, right? So, yeah, when you think how many hundreds of lives we've been with Baba, I mean, like, what's 100 lives? That's being with several avatars, right? So, yeah, we've all been around the block. We've all seen it. We've all been there. And I don't even have a chance to watch all the recordings we make, but I have this feeling that we're squirreling them away. And my joke to myself is that I'm squirreling them away for my next life, because one of these days, I'm going to be like all over again, new to Baba. Oh my God, you have to do this all over again. New to Baba. What is this about? Is he God? Is he what? What is he saying? And then, your gut says, yes, let's follow this. And then you're going to find this treasure trove of when Baba lovers were just hanging out like family. That wasn't whatever, Meherism or Babaism or whatever it's going to be called. There's going to be, in the next life, next 2 lives, whatever it is, there's going to be a religion about Meher Baba. You know it. Can't be avoided. We all ask the question, how can we avoid a religion? Well, we're avoiding a religion because we're talking amongst ourselves as real people, as, equals, as Erich puts it, sharing the mystical, sharing mystical stories, sharing mystical experiences amongst ourselves. We can only be equal in that.
And that's how Baba.
Right. Yeah. There's no hierarchy. There's no somebody to interpret for you. There's nobody who knows more than you. You answer directly to Baba, and Baba directs you. And I see it all the time. Sometimes in my busyness, I'm forgetting to do something, and lo and behold, I'll run into somebody who reminds me, yeah, definite emergency, get back on that track, back to it, yeah. If I'm doing Baba work, I don't have to like overly, I pay as much attention as I can, but I don't have to overly worry about the lost details, because he's going to pick it up. Something's not budging in the schedule. Give it a minute, he'll work it out. something, definitely when I forget a video, oh God, I forgot a video, or whatever it is, I forgot to say such and such to so and so. I'll be reminded. Don't worry, it's gonna happen. And the others are in the same position, they're showing up at the right time to do their piece, and then whenever their particular passion or path takes them somewhere else, they move along, and I'll see them on the other end, when they come back for something else. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Baba's got it well in hand.
I need to go. I can let somebody else host, or
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
we'll let you go to bed now, Angela. Thank you again.
Wonderful.
Sure.
It's been really fun.
True blessing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jai
Thank you
Baba,
so
everyone.
much.
we
Thank
will
you for
come
listening.
back to you for a part 2.
Oh,
Angela.
part 2. Is there more?
Yes, yes,
No,
yes.
there, major green light. There's more.
Yeah, all right. There's more. Well, I enjoy this conversation very much. This
Thank
back
Thank
and
you.
forth.
Thank you.
Thank
Jai
you.
Baba, thank you.
Jai Baba.
Good to see you, Dinku. Well, I'm not seeing you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm seeing you. But now I'm seeing you. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah. Great seeing you too.
Yeah.
Jai
Been a
Baba.
long
Jai
time.
Baba.
All these friends that we made cross continents. And that's the other thing, Baba lovers, they know each other from everywhere. It's amazing, Cliff just today was introducing one person to another and like, oh, I know you from London. It's like, you just can't get away. Every Baba lover knows everybody is through some connection, and we're all family. We're all family, whether we like that word or not. We're all family.
Yes, 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 yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Diane. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for
Thank
hosting.
you.
Jai
Yes.
Baba.
Thank you,
Jai
Diane.
Baba.
Thank you. Thank you.
So much love to everyone. Jai Baba.
Bye.
Bye-bye.